Suzanne, it's
This was
wonderful to
good.
meet you.
You
Thank you
too.
so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So let's begin our journey into your good work by asking this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed everything, changed us, changed the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it affected or influenced the way that you do things now?
That is such a great question. Nobody's asked me that question before.
Good.
First of all, my pod, part of the reason why I'm in Akron is I moved from Columbus because I have twin grandchildren.
Okay.
So I was in a pod with my grandchildren, and my coaching and consulting business had to switch to Zoom. So I no longer had access to relationship building in the same way that I used to because I'm a very relational person.
Yeah.
And thank goodness people still valued me and wanted me because my business completely transitioned to Zoom. And I think because I had a really strong pod, then I didn't feel as isolated as some people experienced isolation. But I think our going to a more technical way of relating to each other changed a lot of things. I feel like we've lost some of that interpersonal time and connection with one another. And yeah, I'd say those are the biggest things.
I had a friend call me yesterday, one of my really good friends, and he's the godfather of my son. And he said he just moved to a new house and went to a neighbor's house. And no one was talking. Everybody was on their phones. It was really weird. And I'm just noticing more vignettes of that with people where there's this level of just kind of disconnect. Maybe it happened during that time period. I think it's probably more prevalent with the youth. I mean, I think us that have been around this planet for a while have a memory of what it's like before phones and before all these
Yes.
distractions. But I think now there's so much noise. There was a thing I was watching with Fred Rogers the other day, and he was like, "There's there's no more quiet. We aren't embracing the fact that we can just be quiet with ourselves. There has to be this constant level of noise and clatter." And I think that because of that, people just kind of don't interact the way they used to, you know?
Right.
So,
People go out to dinner and sit across and text each other.
yeah, I
They don't
know.
even talk to each other anymore, and it's sad to me that I mean, I think COVID and the pandemic pushed us into that more because we had to rely on our devices to relate to each other, and I don't think we've gone back, and then the youth hasn't been exposed to what we've been exposed to. So there is disconnection is a really big thing. I saw in Forbes that 66% of the workforce is experiencing burnout and disconnection.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
a high percentage, you
That's
know?
huge. Well, in the black and white statistic of that, the gray area that's wonderful is that podcasting became such a big thing.
Yes.
And it's such a wonderful, civil, colorful realm to exchange ideas. Even though we're technologically connected, we're still having a conversation and still connecting. And I think this has been such a really good advent of technology and where we're at. So hopefully it stays burning hot and we can exchange ideas in a very wonderful way. So I think it's a good thing.
I do
Uh,
too. I
yeah.
agree.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, children always pull the truth out of us. They are the serum. If I put you in front of 12-year-olds at a career day and one of them's like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
Well, that is such another great question for a 12-year-old. For a 12-year-old. I'm a leadership coach and consultant. I work with individuals, teams, communities, and organizations to help them become better human beings, more efficient, more productive, while they're also finding stillness within themselves.
I love that. So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream gig?
I think my dream gig, I didn't have a framework for it,
Yeah.
but I've always loved helping people. People always called me Dear Aunt Abby, like people would come to me for advice all the time. I didn't know that coaching and consulting, the way I coach and consult, was a possibility at 12. So, I grew into it. Let me put it that way.
So let me ask you this. Take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were the foundational seeds that were planted and eventually harvested that gave you this idea of helping people live better lives, be leaders, and to coach, and all of these things that made you Dear Abby? What were the seeds that were planted that made you who you are?
They're hard things, actually.
Yeah,
I experienced childhood sexual abuse by my father, who was a doctor. So that was very confusing. He was actually a psychiatrist. And it went on for many years. But a couple things, gifts that came out of it were the way that I survived when I went to a holy state of consciousness where I knew something else was real
yeah,
besides what I was experiencing in the physical world or in my body. So that became an asset to me for sure. Um, and so for me, that is a great gift that came out of that. The other thing is my mother was struggling. They ended up getting divorced, and my mother was struggling with depression, and I helped her a lot. And yes, that was a cost to me at 12, and
yeah,
she's apologized. I mean, she's not alive anymore, but she apologized to me. But I learned to witness suffering
yeah,
and I remember saying to my mom, like, when she would feel suicidal and I would say, but your life matters and you've been given the gift of life, it's yours to treasure and you will learn to treasure it. I don't know how that came out of me when I was 12, but I think it came out of the holiness that I experienced during a very horrible time of my life and was able to bring that in. Like, if I could have access to that amidst horror, then it's in you too. So we can find that. And that's honestly, I still operate in that kind of place because I work with my clientele is very diverse. And when I teach, I require my teaching team and my rooms to be a minimum of 50% racially diverse
yeah.
because I feel like the way natural life is we thrive best within diversity, and we don't have representations of that in our organizations. We don't, not at a senior level. It's very, you know, operates with who has access to power and privilege and who's been given that and who doesn't. And it's just, so I try to create environments where it includes the livingness of everyone and every life matters. So I think that I I still think that way. I have all my coaching clients, they unpacked how they've been socialized in terms of race, class, gender, and religion, so that you look at like what you've internalized that may not be the truth of who you are, that are systems outside of you that say if you have value or if you don't have value, and they're lies, right? They're not the
Yeah.
truth. So I want people to find their own liberation inside and feel the holiness that's inside of them. I feel like if I could find that in the circumstance I was in from 5 to 11, it's there. We all have it. So it's what I want everybody to have access to that.
I think there's an ancestral lineage of our souls that goes to a beginning point that's pure. And that I think that
Yes.
it almost reminds me of that Disney movie where the souls just plop into the body and it's this gift. And like you said, there's probably something in you, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, there's something about this soul that has an invisibility that kind of inhabits the matter that we live in, and it knows it just inherently, because
Yes.
humans, when you hear those stories of like um survivors of war that were on a raft for like 3 months and they made
Yeah.
it, like there's this survival technique, even going through hardships and unimaginable events when you're younger become this lightning rod for you to find the light. It's like when you're in a dark room for long enough, you just want to find the flashlight, and when you do, you're going to light up every room in your life because you found it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Joe, I really appreciate everything that you're saying. The book I just wrote, which is launching with the documentary October 15th, it's called It's Deeper Than That.
Yeah,
And I say I combine metaphysics and science and say our literally when you're saying the soul is a drop of the eternal ocean of love or the source of life, which our mind can't understand. But there's a current that runs in our body, right? It's when that current leaves, we call it death. But in order for a current to run in this physical world, it has to run between poles. So the way I look at it is that your soul, which is a drop of the eternal ocean of love, you can't pluck a drop out of the ocean. So actually, the eternal ocean of love is inside of all of us.
Yeah.
But in a unique drop of it is going between poles, like pulsing between poles, between soul or the formless and form, soul matter. So the soul energy, the current, is meant to operate through form to remember itself. So I say the deeper purpose of our life is to remember the truth of who we are. Form is not the destination.
Yeah.
Most people make form the destination and they disconnect from the very thing that's giving them the very gift of life. You can't breathe. Your heart cannot beat without your soul current in your body.
Yeah.
But we spend so much time paying attention to the material world and who we are in the material world, blah, blah, producing. We miss what's inside of us. And it's the very thing that's giving us a gift of life. And I believe it's our birthright to know the truth of who we are. Now, I found that under horrible circumstances in my life. I did, like, and yet, what a gift that I found that and got to know that.
I'll see interviews that are conducted with people that have IQs of like 210, 2 to 210, somewhere up there, which is crazy. And they will ask them, is there a God? And unequivocally, the answer is yes. And there's this explanation along those lines of why. But I think sometimes having 10 to 15% of a brain capacity almost isn't enough for us to conceptualize all of the scientific and metaphysical and spiritual matters that are right in front of us. That whole adage, whatever you're really looking for, whether it's love or hope or anything, is always right in front of you. Like your mom needed you in front of you to say that you matter, right? And
Yeah.
maybe that wasn't evident in the pain that goes into being a human, but it was right there in front of you. And I think all of these things are too much for the limited amount. If we could just ratchet our brain up to 25%, I think we would all find it and we wouldn't elect the people we do and we would have a more harmonious existence.
Well, I think, is it ratcheting the brain? Well, it could be ratcheting the brain. I'm going to just throw something out here.
Yeah.
When I was writing the book, I studied Dr. Randolph Stone's work, and he always said, soul attention is a soul quality. And I just have been repeating that for years. And I'm like, is it? Like, so I did neuroscience research. There is no center in the brain for attention. There is a center in the brain for focusing. But if the attention comes from your soul, maybe it means that we have to calm the mind down to come into stillness
Yeah.
so the attention that's connected to the soul can inform us. So I'm saying that also because a friend of mine had a plane accident and had a horrible brain stem injury and really never walked or talked again. A few words here and there, had the most beautiful presence and emanated love like I see very few people do. And I loved being with him.
Yeah.
He died in this last year, and I miss him dearly because we could be quiet and know together
Yeah.
in a way very few people slow down enough or tune in to do. And so I'm just wondering, is it ratcheting up the brain or is it calming the mind to have access to stillness where radiance is? Maybe both.
Well, and I think all of us are born in different ways. Like my son's on the spectrum, he's 20, and there's so many wonderful, wondrous things about him that go into a purity of his soul because he's not taking in all of these neurological distractions that we get as,
Yeah.
news headlines and all of these things. He just has this purity of wanting to do something, and it's almost like a child, like an infant. There's this unabashed, no
Lovely.
fences around this kind of psyche of just absorbing for the right reasons because we're here on this journey to kind of feel this world without fence.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So
Thanks
he's,
for sharing that.
yeah, without a doubt. So let me ask you this. Going through the things that you've had to overcome in your life, we always need inspirations or heroes. Who was that for you? Who has helped you evolve into who you are as a human today?
I've had so many people, honestly. Uh, this isn't exactly answering, but I'm going to answer it
Sure.
this way.
Yeah.
I started doing personal training maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, and I'm going to be 73 in a month, and this trainer that I have sees me and goes, "You actually are strong." And he doesn't tell me what he's doing, but he throws weights on the things. And I go ahead and do it. And he'll go, "That's your personal best." And I go, "How much was it?" And he'll go, 155 pounds. And I think, what? If you told me that it was 155 pounds, I would never lift it.
Uh-huh.
What is it like to have someone in your life that sees something in you that you're not seeing in yourself, but says, "I see it in you and I know it's possible." And I've had a number, it would take me too long to name those people, but that's the quality of what was outside of me that made the difference. Somebody looking and going, I see you. I see you underneath your trauma. I see you underneath your self-hatred. I see you underneath your wanting to die. I know there's more inside of you than that. And that I've had a number of people stand with me in that way until I could see it in myself. And then they remind me, you know,
Yeah, it's amazing that, and I think about that answer. It's probably one of the best answers I've gotten for this question. I I was when I was in college, I wanted to be in sports broadcasting, and I got a glimpse of that world. It's like I opened the door and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. So I just kind of closed it up, and it was a big dream to be in broadcasting. And I eventually, years later, ran into a radio show, and it was with John Christopher, and he does the American Songbook. And I reached out. Anyway, long story short, I started getting into broadcasting. But the seed that was planted in me was my current job. I'm an IT technician for a school district. And my boss at the time needed training things done. And he was like, he knew my history, and he was like, you need to do these, you need to do the voiceovers. And that was the spark. And he saw it. He saw that there was this
Mhm.
dream that was dormant, and he planted that seed, and then it eventually went. So I just grabbed it, whether it was conscious or subconscious, and it ended up becoming. I've done what I wanted to do. I got a show. I'm doing podcasting. It's like just didn't give up on it, right? And they see that, and that's why I love that answer, because there's these people that see beneath all of that, and they can just go to Narnia and take you to Narnia, and that's what we
Yeah,
need, right?
exactly.
It's good.
Totally.
So let me ask you this. What gets you up every day to do this work? I mean, getting into the heads of folks can be hard, and it can be daunting, and I mean, not in a bad way, but it's just it you just kind of have to fetter through and figure out the best path. But what is it for you that gets you